Visual novels are a type of game that I don't have too much experience with. I like my games to have gameplay, and visual novels don't exactly have that. Even though I have played, reviewed, and liked a dating sim, I don't go out of my way to find any visual novels. However, if you look on the desktop of my computer, you will see a folder called VNs, which contains a lot of visual novels. I got all of these from a Humble Bundle a few years ago, and I'm only just now getting around to playing them. I'm actually going to be looking at 3 games today, a trilogy of visual novels, called Jisei, Kansei, and Yousei, or something. I might have pronounced that right, I don't know. I may not have played as many visual novels as Matt Rocks 101, honestly, I don't think anyone has, but I still think I can give a fair assessment on these games. Jisei is the first in the series. The story opens with you, a guy, who's in a coffee shop, and while you're about to throw up or something, you find a dead body in the bathroom, and you and the 3 other people in the coffee shop are the suspects. The game is a murder mystery novel, which I find to be pretty interesting. I did want to know who the killer was the whole time, so that kept me engaged. While the story is good, the characters on the other hand kind of bore me. There's the businesswoman named Jennifer, who isn't boring, but just really annoying because her only character trait is being a bitch. There's the employee of the coffee shop, Chance, who's the peppy girl who tries to make everything happy, but my black hole of a heart will never allow that. There's Kizuki, who's just the quiet kid. And then there's Officer Gertzky, a cop, who I actually do kinda like, because he does have a character and believable emotions. And then there's you, who's boring because the writers are trying very hard to convince me that this guy's mysterious backstory is a character trait. It's not. However, an interesting thing about the character, you, is that you have superpowers. You have the ability to relive dead people's last moments, which is actually a pretty interesting concept. That's the whole point of this trilogy, is that there's a bunch of kids with superpowers who solve crimes. This is actually a really interesting concept, as a lot of these superpowers are really cool, but most of these characters don't show up until the other games, so I'll get to them later. Despite the game being a murder mystery, there isn't that much mystery. The best way to progress the story is to just go to every room, click on everything, and talk to everyone, then report back to the cop, rinse and repeat. However, it is satisfying to eventually piece everything together and figure out who the killer is all on your own. I won't spoil who it is, but I will say that Kizuki is a returning character. The game is short, like maybe an hour and a half on your first playthrough, and while the art does look nice, and while I am impressed with the inclusion of half-decent voice acting,
the Fifth Amendment is only applicable to testifying under oath in a court of law or other tribunal.
The asking price of $10 is bullshit. Next game. Kansei is the second game in this trilogy, and it improves in basically every aspect. The characters have character, the story is a lot more interesting, and there are a lot more people to talk to. In the first game, the Auten Company was brought up a lot. Now you have to investigate the murder of the owner of the company, Mr. Auten, with you, the shy kid from the coffee shop, whose real name is Naoki, his sister Aki, and a young girl named Lee Mei. All of these people have some sort of superpower that they use to solve crimes. These powers are called Kansei, like what the game is called. It makes you wonder why this isn't just called the Kansei Trilogy, or Kansei 1, 2, and 3. Instead, they had to call it stupid names like Jisei, Yousei, Kansei, and there's a 4th game coming out, and who knows what that'll be called. I'm just gonna list what all these people's powers are. Naoki can remember anything and everything he sees, Aki has telepathy, and Lee Mei has the ability to feel the emotions of all the people around her. These are actually really cool powers, because they aren't overpowered to the point of this being a superhero game, and it makes sense that these powers can solve crimes, and it also gives the story a pretty unique element. However, the main character's power is to relive the last moments of dead people, so it would make sense that this game would be really easy. However, the game makes you and your power useless. Mr. Auten is locked in his room, and you can't get in. I mean, this makes sense because of how the game set up Mr. Auten as a super paranoid guy, but every other character uses their power to find clues. I think that if they changed the power of the main character to something that could be turned into a gameplay element to help you find clues, it would make the game a lot more fun. I don't know what the power would be, just something to make conversation more dynamic, and to make the inclusion of powers, or more specifically your power, more relevant. The game also has a lot more characters, and they're all actually pretty well written. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I will do a quick rundown of them. There's Mr. Autumn's assistant, a reporter, an IT guy, and Mr. Autumn's nephew. Each of them are suspects. You also get a name in this game. Well, not your real one. That would reveal too much about this guy's super interesting story. Instead, Aki decides to call you Kansei. Get it? It's a joke, because he's a guy with a Kansei, so he's Kansei. Get it? Yeah, now excuse me while I go kill myself. This game is also a lot longer than the first one. I don't know exactly how long, maybe 3 hours or so, I don't remember, but it's definitely longer and much more worth your time. The art and voice acting have also gotten a lot better. In fact, the only real problem with this game is Kansei. His stupid backstory just isn't interesting. I mean, now we know that there's something about his sister, and the cop knows him or something, but I just don't care. I hate playing as characters whose main character trait is their tragic backstory, and I find it especially annoying in this game. Because of the setup, it limits the ways that Kansei can interact with other characters, since they can't talk about anything other than the case. Conversations are only one of two things, talking about the case, or one of the main characters trying to get any backstory out of Kansei. All we know is that his sister is dead, and Kansei is the only witness, yet he refuses to give any info to the cops. Kansei does drag this game down in my opinion, but he is the only real problem. However, is this game worth $15? No. Maybe $10, but not $15. Personally, I find it hard to justify buying these sorts of games. They don't have enough gameplay for me to call them video games, and they're not long or engaging enough for me to call them books. I mean, if you're a fan of visual novels, you'll probably find some enjoyment in this game. But if you're not a fan of visual novels, I do find it hard to recommend this game, despite how much I've been praising it. Finally, there's Yousei. Same basic concept, murder mystery, talk to people, find the killer, except this time, it's at a university. Yousei is without a doubt the best in the series, but it's still very similar to the other two games. You still talk to people to figure out the killer and do all that, blah 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 blah. There really aren't too many differences between this game and Kansei. This game is a lot darker, specifically in describing the dead guy and how Kansei experiences the dead guy. This sort of storytelling is a lot better. It's longer, deeper, well written, and the characters are also really good. Even Kansei is likable in this game, and I actually managed to care about his backstory, seeing as how it keeps the plot moving. Conversations are also a lot deeper. They're not just about talking about the case. A lot of the conversations are just small talk, especially at the beginning of the game. It's just the characters talking and building character development, and you know, I like it. I really don't have too many new things to say about it, since the game is mechanically the same as the first two. In fact, this is just the first two games, but bigger and better. Overall, the series is pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I recommend it to anyone who's a fan of visual novels. It started out kinda rocky, kinda bland, but it definitely redeemed itself. The ending of the third game suggests that a fourth game is in the works, and I'm definitely excited for it, because I do want to see where these characters go and what the story will bring. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you like this video, you can watch the last two videos I made by clicking them right here. And I also just did a collab video with MattRocks101, and I was featured in a video by Mr. Sky. You can also click those two right here. I've also got a Twitter you can follow if you want to, and hey, subscribing would be kinda cool.